The sanctity of human life is under assault. Find out how and what you can do about it in this edition of Life Matters with Brian Johnston, Western Regional Director of the National Right to Life Committee. Brian Johnston is the Western Director of the National Right to Life Committee. He has served in many capacities while advocating for innocent lives, as California Commissioner on Aging, as Chairman of the California Pro-Life Council, on the board of the National Legal Center for the Medically Dependent and Disabled. And now here's our host, Brian Johnston.
Well, welcome back to Life Matters. We're your program on the right to life, on the culture that's impacted by the right to life or its loss, and the very real battle of ideas. Because this is a battle, and it's not just a metaphor to call it that. The ideas that you hear expressed, not just on this program, but often on television, radio, the internet, these ideas involved human lives. And these ideas, when applied, basically become laws. Ideas that are enforced are called laws. If you're not engaged in this battle of ideas, if you don't have the facts, if you make the wrong assumptions based on emotions or based on your personal theology, you can make big mistakes because this isn't really based on our personal theology. This is based on self-evident truths. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. So our lives are not given to us by the government. Our lives are given us by our God. It's the government's job to protect those rights. So government has a job under the right to life. That's what our founder said. It's the job of government to protect these rights, and for this reason, governments are instituted among men, to protect the lives of those that can't protect themselves. Without the right to life in effect, everyone is at risk. Those in authority will dismiss the value of lives. They've already begun to do so in the abortion debate, and yes, they're doing so now with the medically dependent, with the disabled, with the elderly, when it comes to what's called the end-of-life debate. These are serious ideas, and ideas have consequences. Today, we're going to focus on just one topic, so consider this a program to equip you and your friends to deal with the issue of RU486. You're going to hear from an abortionist who has used these pills. You're going to hear testimony of a woman who has taken these pills. It's very important to understand the facts regarding these chemical abortions. So the first thing I want to prepare you for is to understand what this isn't. We're not talking about the morning after pill. A lot of people confuse it. Well, it's a pill you take and then you don't have to worry about being pregnant. No, these are very, very different pills. In fact, the morning after pill is in every police department's rape kit. The morning after pill literally is exactly that. You know, when a man and a woman have sex, that isn't necessarily when conception takes place. In fact, what has to happen is the egg of the woman has to descend down through the fallopian tubes. And that is often prevented by what's known as the morning after pill. So that's been marketed as kind of a backup contraception. And its primary purpose, it can be abortifacient if conception's taken place, but primarily the morning after pill is designed to prevent conception. So it's only taken when sex has already happened and shortly thereafter. RU486 is not contraceptive in nature. RU486 is only taken when mom knows she has a baby. In fact, it can only be taken after the child is somewhat developed. The child has to be at least 6 weeks or 7 weeks old, and they will insist, as you'll hear in testimony, that the woman come back when she's further along in order for this drug to really kill that kid. So this is an insidious drug, RU486. RU stands for Roussel-Uclof, the French company that developed the drug. It was later bought by a German company, Höchst AG. And those of you who know history might remember the name Höchst AG as the drug company that produced the Zyklon B gas, which was used in the death chambers of Germany. So it's an unusual pharmacological company because they make drugs that kill, that are designed to kill human beings. Most pharmacology, as you know, in proper medicine, is used to benefit human beings. That's the purpose of medicine. The other word you need to be aware of is that a lot of abortionists refer to this as medical abortion. And that's a little bit ironic because, well, I thought all abortions that are done by a doctor would be medical. What they're trying to imply is a distinction between the use of this drug, RU486, as a medicine and surgical abortion. But as you can tell, in the language game, and remember, we're in a battle of language. We're in a battle of ideas. Ideas are expressed in words. It's misleading, isn't it, to call it a medical abortion. They're trying to imply a medicinal abortion. It really should be called a chemical abortion because this is not medicinal. The word medicinal itself carries a meaning of benefiting a patient. Again, what RU486 does, it's a very powerful steroid. It's a chemical that attacks the mother's body first. And after doing so, then the child dies in the womb because the child doesn't get nutrition from the mom anymore. This is designed to adversely affect women with the goal of seriously, adversely killing that child. So even calling it medicinal isn't quite honest. When we get back, you're going to hear from a physician who's been involved in the act of administering these abortion pills. Dr. Anthony Levatino is a former abortionist. You'll hear from him. He'll tell his story. He'll explain to you how the chemicals work step by step. We want you prepared in this battle. Again, we have this program so that you can send this podcast along to others so they understand the distinctions. This is not the morning after pill. This is a very powerful drug that attacks the mother's body first, and the implications are great. You're listening to Life Matters, and we're going to be back right after this.
You're listening to Life Matters.
Life Matters is sponsored by the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of the National Right to Life Committee. To find out more on how you can help and be involved right where you are, go to californiaprolife.org. That's californiaprolife.org. We'll tell you how you can get involved in your local community, how you can be effective if you want to be a pro-life speaker. We have training programs and open doors of opportunity for you to speak on the life issue. If you'd like to donate your car or a boat, you can do that at californiaprolife.org. Car Easy makes it easy, and you find that on our website. We get the most of any donation program. Car Easy allows us to get the most out of your car. Maybe you're not getting the trade-in value you wanted. Maybe it's just not running the way it used to. Let your car be used for life. Go to californiaprolife.org and find out what you can do to make a difference. californiaprolife.org.
Be sure to subscribe to the Life Matters podcast with Brian Johnston. Go to lifematters.life to subscribe. And now back to more Life Matters with Brian Johnston.
Welcome back to Life Matters, your program on life, on culture, the very present battle of ideas. Our program today is dedicated to talking about RU486, very powerful artificial steroid that attacks the mother's body first to prevent any nutrition going to her womb and the child in the womb. Then the child, once dead, is expelled by administration of a secondary drug. You're going to hear now from Dr. Anthony Levatino, a former abortionist. He no longer does abortions, but he has spoken on the right to life issue across the nation. He has spoken to the California Pro-Life Council, Prayer Breakfast, and other places. This particular recording is thanks to Live Action. But the story here, the detailed facts, are facts you need to know so that you can be equipped in this battle and understand exactly what's at stake. Here's Dr. Levatino.
My name is Dr. Anthony Levatino. I'm a practicing obstetrician-gynecologist, and I performed over 1,200 abortions. Today I'm going to describe a first trimester medical abortion. This is a procedure in which the mother swallows pills in order to terminate her baby, and it is performed up to the 10th week of pregnancy. The procedure involves 2 steps. Step 1. At the abortion clinic or doctor's office, the woman takes pills which contain mifepristone, also called RU486. RU486 blocks the action of a hormone called progesterone. Progesterone is naturally produced in the mother's body to stabilize the lining of the uterus. When RU486 blocks progesterone, the lining of the mother's uterus breaks down, cutting off blood and nourishment to the baby, who then dies inside the mother's womb. Step 2. 24 to 48 hours after taking RU486, the woman takes misoprostol, also called Cytotec, that is administered either orally or vaginally. RU486 and misoprostol together cause severe cramping, contractions, and often heavy bleeding to force the dead baby out of the woman's uterus. The process can be very intense and painful, and the bleeding and contractions can last from a few hours to several days. While she could lose her baby anytime and anywhere during this process, the woman will often sit on a toilet as she prepares to expel the child, which she will then flush. She may even see her dead baby within the pregnancy sac. At 9 weeks, for example, the baby will be almost an inch long, and if she looks carefully, she might be able to count the fingers and toes. After she has disposed of her baby, the woman may have bleeding and spotting for several weeks. Bleeding lasts, on average, 9 to 16 days. 8% of women bleed more than 30 days, and 1% require hospitalization because of heavy bleeding. The failure rate increases as the pregnancy progresses. If failure occurs, she will usually be offered a surgical abortion. For the mother, medical abortion often causes abdominal pain, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, and heavy bleeding. Maternal deaths have occurred, most frequently due to infection and undiagnosed ectopic pregnancy. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm Dr. Anthony Levatino, and in the early part of my career as an OBGYN, I performed over 1,200 abortions. One day, after completing one of those abortions, I looked at the remains of a preborn child whose life I had ended, and all I could see was someone's son or daughter. I came to realize that killing a baby at any stage of pregnancy for any reason is wrong. I want you to know today, no matter where you're at or what you've done, you can change. Make a decision today to protect the preborn. Thank you for your time.
We appreciate Dr. Levatino's giving us the facts, and the fact that he will no longer do abortion. He understands now. It took, unfortunately, 1,200 acts. You don't have to be a political philosopher to believe in the right to life, even though it is a statement of political philosophy. The right to life is a statement by our founders regarding the purpose of the law, to protect those that can't protect themselves. It's very straightforward. It's the true nature of government. And it's what we're here to defend, the right to life of every vulnerable individual. As we talk about RU486, I want to draw your attention to the fact that when it was legalized in the U.S. in the year 2000, the Food and Drug Administration gave very specific directions for how it was to be used because, again, this is a very powerful drug. They wanted to make sure that in its application, that young mother was in the presence of medical professionals that could intervene, because as you will hear in just a little bit, it actually attacks the mother's body, particularly the misoprostol, as it causes her to expel the child. Sometimes the child hasn't been finished off, sadly, and she can then see the child that was in her. And this is very disturbing to women. But the fact is that most of the time, it's being used now off-label. What off-label means is they're not exactly following the directions that the Food and Drug Administration recommends. And that's very, very dangerous. You can find out more, by the way. I will want to recommend to you a very important website. It's called Abortion Pill Risks, abortionpillrisks.org. And this is important because, believe it or not, it's not a pro-lifers website. The individuals who put this together are actually pro-choice individuals. So they are most concerned not so much with the child being killed. They philosophically don't want to even go there. But the fact is they have seen and experienced great harm from this abortion pill, as I said, because it first attacks the mother's body. And in this particular case, this website was developed by a father who lost his daughter. He didn't know that she was taking this pill. She died because of the complications of RU486. And in a little bit, you're going to get some testimony from that website Again, that website is called abortionpillrisks.org. That's abortionpillrisks, all spelled out, abortionpillrisks.org. And you can go into great detail. All of this is documented. And if you know people who don't consider themselves pro-life, they should still know these facts. And again, these are facts presented and documented from people who are not pro-life, but they're deeply alarmed at these chemicals and what they do to a woman's body. We're going to hear a testimony that's actually published on that site, and it's a dramatic reading of a real story that happened to an individual. Kay is her name. And again, she also is a pro-choice woman. In fact, she's a feminist. I would say a radical feminist as you listen to her story. She had had a surgical abortion previously in her life. She believes in, quote, abortion rights, and yet was very much concerned at what happened to her and that she wasn't told the facts about RU486. So when we come back, you're going to hear the story of Kay. There are many other stories that are on this website, Abortion Pill Risks. I recommend that you go there and listen to these stories and get documentation on this very powerful drug. It's designed to kill babies, but to do so by really attacking the mother's body first. We'll be right back.
Life Matters continues after this.
This is an urgent California pro-life action alert. Senate Bill 320 would mandate that RU486 be distributed on every college campus and university. It's urgent that you contact your assembly member. Go to CaliforniaProLife.org. That's CaliforniaProLife.org. Download the petition to your assembly member. Make sure that they not support the distribution of RU486 on college campuses. Go to CaliforniaProLife.org. Stop RU486.
And now back to more about life, culture, and the battle of ideas with Brian Johnston.
So welcome back. We're listening now to the story of Kay, who took an RU486 regimen in order to create an abortion. She thought it would be easy. She had had a surgical abortion before. She didn't want to go through that. And so when she knew she was pregnant, she was married. But she was a doctoral student, a very well-educated and progressive doctoral student who wanted to end this pregnancy as well. As you know, that's just a code for killing the baby. But she considers herself pro-choice and didn't want to have these responsibilities. She then decided to go to Planned Parenthood and get the RU486, or as she refers to it, the medical abortion, which implies that it's medicinal abortion. But what really should be called the chemical abortifacient, RU486. And you can see just the horrific situation that came upon her.
I again called Planned Parenthood. At that point, I was less than 5 weeks pregnant. When I inquired about a medical abortion, I was told that it was too early to exercise that option. I had to have an ultrasound to confirm the pregnancy, and I wasn't far enough along for the technician to be able to do so. Incredulous, I asked, "So you want me to be more pregnant before I can terminate my pregnancy?" After checking with her superiors, the woman on the phone confirmed that was the case. I scheduled the ultrasound for the next available time after I was sufficiently pregnant by their standards for 2 weeks later. When I went to the appointment, I was again left alone. My spouse was not allowed to come past the waiting area for an invasive transvaginal ultrasound that took nearly 45 minutes. After the pregnancy was finally confirmed, I had to watch a video on the medical abortion pill. The video described the process very superficially and compared a medical abortion to a heavy period. After watching the video and having a consultation with a registered nurse, I scheduled my appointment for the next week, again the earliest available, to receive the medication. I also assumed, incorrectly as I detail below, that I would receive the rest of the information about the medication at that point from a physician. On the morning of my appointment, my spouse drove me to the clinic. I paid the $450 for the medication, and we waited for my name to be called. I was alone when I met the physician. In less than 2 minutes, the physician covered the 4 medicines he was giving me. Phenergan for nausea, hydrocodone for pain, mifepristone to end the pregnancy, and misoprostol to induce cramping, the procedure, and what I ought to expect. I waited patiently for him to finish so I could ask a few questions. When I started to ask questions, he handed me a one-page printout and drawn diagrams and said, "This will cover everything you need to know." Persistent, I thanked him and continued to ask a few additional questions. Obviously frustrated, he said to me, "Don't be so anal about this. The hardest part, getting here, is over. Just follow the directions on the printout. All the information you need is there." I pointed out to him that one of his instructions not to take any products containing aspirin and blood thinner was not on the handout. He responded by saying, "If you have any problems, call the number on the handout and don't put anything in your vagina, fingers, crayons, etc. for 3 weeks." That was the end of our consultation. It lasted 10 minutes. I took the mifepristone in the office and then left with a brown paper bag of my other medications. Upon exiting, I was asked if I need any birth control. "No," I responded. "I have a prescription that I am currently using right now, but it failed because of antibiotics. I was told by my physician that it wouldn't, but here I am." A nurse standing nearby said, "The antibiotics didn't interfere. That is a myth." Already annoyed by the cavalier attitude of the Planned Parenthood physician, to her I responded, "Well, I have been having sex with my husband for 8 years, using the same birth control, and in that time I have not gotten pregnant. Yet within weeks of taking antibiotics, here I stand. You will forgive me if I doubt what you say." With that, I left the clinic. My husband and I drove home. I waited 2 days to take the misoprostol. I followed the directions exactly. I took 2 hydrocodone and a Phenergan in advance of taking the misoprostol. I held the misoprostol in my cheeks to allow them to dissolve, and I waited in a warm bath, which I later discovered you're not supposed to do because the water might enter your uterus and cause an infection. Information again not included in the one-page comprehensive diagram sheet for the cramping to begin. I also called my husband and let him know to come home. He said he would be there shortly. None of us felt any urgency. After all, it was supposed to be just a heavy period, right? Within 15 minutes of the capsules dissolving, I felt heavy pressure in my lower abdomen and uncontrollable cramping. I was in so much pain I nearly fainted. Tears streaming down my face, I called my husband back and told him I was dying. I told him to come home as fast as possible, and I hung up. I have a very high pain tolerance. I once spent half a day hobbling around on what I later discovered was a broken ankle before going to the emergency room and having them give me Tylenol, which is enough for me to feel fine. This pain was unimaginable, indescribable. It was the worst pain I'd ever felt. With every cramp, I felt my heart race and my blood pressure plummet. I felt nauseated, dizzy, and lightheaded. By the time my husband arrived home, a few minutes later, the water in the tub was colored red by blood, and our dog was barking like mad in between my screams. My husband immediately called the emergency informational number listed on the paper they had given us. He described the situation to them, and they responded that this was normal, and I did not need to go to the hospital. They recommended that if I was uncomfortable, that I take more hydrocodone. They also told him that I should not be in the bathtub due to the risk of infection. Frustrated, he hung up the phone and lifted me up. Unable to stand on my own due to pain, he held me in the shower to rinse off the bloody water and carried me to our bed. He got several towels and laid them underneath me and gave me 2 more hydrocodone. The additional medication, keep in mind 4 hydros in less than 90 minutes, barely cut the pain. I faded in and out, shivering and sweating. He laid next to me while I went through the worst experience of my life. After 2 hours of this, I felt a rush of blood and a large lemon-sized blood clot came out. I assumed that it was my pregnancy. I was horrified. Why hadn't anyone told me that it would be like this? My husband cleaned up the towels, wiped the blood off me, changed the sheets. He had to dress me because I was too weak from all the pain. I took 2 additional pain pills and finally fell asleep. After 3 weeks, I had a followed transvaginal ultrasound that confirmed the pregnancy had been fully terminated and that there was no evidence of infection. I still bled for the next 5 weeks. Sometimes it would just be spotting, but at other times there would be gushes of blood. One afternoon, a month later, I was getting out of the passenger seat of our car. We had just had lunch. As I was getting up, I felt a gush. Shocked, I thought I had somehow peed my pants. I told my husband in the driver's seat. Surprised at my sudden lack of bladder control, he told me to stand up. When I did, we both realized that the seat of the car was covered in blood. There was blood everywhere, on the seat, on the floor, on the back of my shirt, down my legs, and completely soaked through the mega pad Planned Parenthood had recommended. It all happened just a few seconds. He told me to go inside and lie down. He called the number again, was told that this was normal, and that I didn't need to go to the hospital unless it happened continuously, unless I was hemorrhaging. While I slept, exhausted, my husband spent the next few hours cleaning the car as best he could. Though less traumatic, there were other times when I would bleed through both my pad and my pants during meetings. Embarrassed, I spent most of my time depressed and hiding at home. The whole ordeal was awful. Sometime after the abortion, I spoke to a friend about my experience. I was angry that I hadn't been sufficiently told or warned about the potential dangers and side effects of the medical abortion. She agreed, but responded that Planned Parenthood probably didn't want to scare me away from having an abortion. As an ardent supporter of women's rights, I can understand wanting to help women make the difficult choice to end their pregnancy, but I disagree that such support should come at the expense of fully informing them. If I would have had all the information, I would have rescheduled and opted for the less expensive surgical abortion option. Instead, at this point, the experience was so traumatic that I have told my husband I never want to be pregnant again. Maybe I will change my mind. I hope so. What I keep thinking about is, what if I had been alone?
You're listening to Life Matters, your program on the right to life, on culture and the very real battle of ideas. We're talking about RU486. A very powerful artificial steroid. This is not the morning after pill. This is actually designed to only be taken when the woman is farther along in her pregnancy. The child is very much there. You can see the fingers, count the fingers and toes. The heart's been beating for a while. We know it's a boy or a girl. We know all about that child, and we want the child dead. It attacks the woman's body first and radically changes her chemistry, and then misoprostol causes a spontaneous miscarriage, which dramatically impacts the woman's body. If you'd like to have more information on RU486, go to nrlc.org. You can get links to this various information. But most importantly, you'll understand that you can impact the laws both nationally and in your state. National Right to Life has affiliates in every state, and there'll be links to your state affiliate of National Right to Life where you can apply this information and make sure that young women are protected from this terrible pill, RU486.
Learn more about everything in today's show online at lifematters.life, where you'll find all the resources you need to protect life. Life Matters is a production of the California Pro-Life Council, the state affiliate of National Right to Life.